Let's start from the United States, where the Trump administration is preparing to revoke the business and tourism visas of up to 200,000 foreigners who've applied for are currently seeking asylum status in the United States. If it happens, the move would be the largest single mass revocation of visas in the U.S. history and would likely face legal challenges. Let's have our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, to help us understand who could be affected by this. Hi, Maria. Good morning. Tell us, the extent that this might get to. 200,000 foreigners may have their visas revoked.
Yes, this is a move by the president, which we know the president came into office for a second term, very focused on immigration in the United States. And he stated during his entire campaign that he'd be tightening the reins around immigration laws and specifically too around how individuals came into the United States. So this is something that we knew was a potential to happen. As you said, the 200,000 is a bit large. It's the largest that would happen if it does fully go through in the United States history, as you stated. Now, the B1 and B2 visas are both used. One, B1 for short-term business trips to the United States, and the B2 for tourist trips, visiting family or medical care. And so those are very typical visas that many have used to come into the United States. Now, the question is, and what the president and his administration have noted, is that he believes, and that they're still working through the actual numbers around it, but that many individuals apply for those visas, but actually come to the United States applying for asylum once they get here. And so the question is really around if they were to, because we all know that there is the ability to come to the United States and ask for asylum. But typically that happens before someone enters the United States due to some sort of massive war crimes in their country or something that has been a natural disaster or something that has majorly impacted that country. Typically, it does not happen once someone has applied for that B1 and B2 visa. So this could mean major changes to the United States in the way in which it operates around immigration.
Yeah, and we hear too that I don't think the lawmakers will be folding their arms and watching. From that aspect, what can we expect from the legal aspect, from the lawmakers?
Well, we know when the president tried to go forth with the birth rights movement, where mothers that came to the United States that were pregnant, had children in the United States, where those children potentially would not have had birth rights. The Supreme Court, the courts denied that. That did not go forward. And so people still have birth rights acts. And so the court will have to review the cases and to see whether or not this potential mass revocation of B1 and B2 visas is within the confines of the immigration laws. Now, we know that B1 and B2 visas are not going to go away. What the president has done in the interim is he has asked that individuals, when they apply for their B1 and B2 visas, check off whether or not they are planning to come and seek asylum once arriving in the United States. And so that is one of the measures he's put in place. But I think we're going to be looking at court cases around this. But I do know that individuals will definitely still be able to have the B1 and B2 visas. It's just really around what restrictions could be in place and if it is harder to apply for those visas.
All right, we'll see how it goes out of that. So, Maria, you want to tell us how the market fared yesterday?
Well, the market yesterday did better than Monday. The market has shown a slight growth despite what many anticipated to be a challenging day due to the tariff back and forth and potential tariff war between the U.S. and Canada, as Canada did announce tariffs that they planned to invoke upon the United States, a retaliatory tariff. And so what we saw in the markets was we saw both the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 kind of stabilized around 0.3%. We also saw that the NASDAQ did make a little bit of a hike up at 0.6%. And so that's some modest growth within the stock market, noting some of the other geopolitical climate challenges that we're facing.
All right, Maria, thank you so much for joining the program, giving us an update, especially on that visa conversation. All right, moving to other stories now, but we're still in the United States. President Donald Trump has said that mines have been cleared from the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important oil shipping routes. The claim comes as concerns over shipping security and energy supplies remain high following the conflict with Iran. Any improvement in navigation through the waterway could help reduce pressure on global oil markets and ease risks to international shipments. Investors are, of course, closely watching for signs of a more stable flow of oil through the strait. And as we saw earlier today, when we looked at the data on the Strait of Hormuz, we saw that just one ship has gone through in 24 hours. So I guess the concerns are still there. And still related to that, Iran and Oman are preparing a possible agreement that's aimed at easing tensions around the Strait of Hormuz. And the talks come as the United States holds back on secondary sanctions, giving diplomatic efforts more room to develop. The strait is critical to global energy supply, so any deal that improves security could help support the flow of oil and other shipments. And markets, of course, watching out for signs of that diplomatic talks expected. And Canada is announcing retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, with some of the new levies set to reach as high as 50%. Well, Ottawa describes the measures as a dollar-for-dollar response to the U.S. trade actions, and the move risks escalating trade tensions between the two close economic partners, with businesses on both sides facing higher costs. Investors are watching for further response from Washington. A proposed nuclear agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia is now before the Congress for review. The deal seeks to deepen cooperation in civilian nuclear energy and strengthen the strategic relationship between Washington and Riyadh, but experts are warning about potential nuclear proliferation risks, including concerns over how the agreement could affect the region's security imbalance. Lawmakers are expected to closely scrutinize the terms. And still talking about Saudi Arabia, the country is stepping up efforts to deepen its derivatives market as part of a broader reform of the country's capital market. The initiative aims to improve market liquidity, expand investment options, and attract more local and international investors. The move forms part of Riyadh's long-term plan to develop its financial sector and reduce its economic dependence on oil. Amazon is shutting down a service that founder Jeff Bezos once described as artificial intelligence. The service used human workers to handle tasks that computers struggle to perform, showing how people once filled gaps in AI technology. Its closure now reflects just how quickly artificial intelligence has advanced. The move also highlights Amazon's shift towards more automated systems and AI-powered services. And in Thailand, the central bank has kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged for a third straight meeting, and it's to support an economy recovering from higher energy costs triggered by the Middle East conflict. A Hong Kong court declined to remove PricewaterhouseCoopers International Limited from a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit brought by China's Evergrande, the liquidators against the firm that said that it's at its Hong Kong and mainland Chinese affiliates. Deputy High Court Judge Patrick Fong says that evidence PwC International submitted as part of its arguments to exit the case was inadequate and unsatisfactory. Those are the global stories.